Isn't it exhausting dragging your broken body around every day? The words landed like a slap, sharp and unprovoked, slicing through the soft hum of hallway chatter at Bellridge Academy. A few gasps slipped out, followed by laughter. Quiet at first, then bolder. The sound echoed off marble walls, bouncing between lockers and teenage egos, while students turned to watch the scene unfold. Some grinned, others looked away, but no one stepped in. Bellridge Academy wasn't just any school. It was a palace disguised as a prep school, tucked in a wealthy American suburb, where family legacies were etched into the donor wall and luxury cars lined the student lot. Here, money didn't just talk, it determined your place in the food chain. And those who didn't fit the mold were reminded of it daily. Lena James, 16, quiet and composed, had long since learned how to navigate that world. In her matte black wheelchair, she glided through the chaos with practiced grace. A car accident in early childhood had stolen her ability to walk, but left her brilliance intact. She was top of her class, a lover of science and quiet corners. She never interrupted, never caused trouble, and never asked for sympathy. But in a place like Bellridge, being different was enough to make you a target. Chloe Hart was everything Lena was not: loud, wealthy, visible, blonde, stylish, and born into privilege. Chloe moved through school like a queen surveying her kingdom. Her clique followed her like shadows, and her approval was currency. She didn't just know the rules of Bellridge's social hierarchy, she wrote them. And mocking Lena, that was her favorite sport. If this moment already makes your heart ache or your blood boil, take a second to hit that like button. Share this video to speak up for those who can't. Leave a comment below to tell us what respect truly means to you. And don't forget to subscribe for more powerful stories that remind us of the strength and kindness. As Lena rolled past the central lockers that morning, she felt it before it happened. The way voices quieted just enough, the way Chloe tilted her head with that familiar smirk. She said the lines slowly, deliberately, as if daring Lena to respond. But Lena didn't. She never did. She kept her gaze forward, her posture straight, her hands moving steadily along the rims of her wheels. She'd heard worse. She'd endured worse. Still, the sting wasn't in the words, it was in the laughter that followed, in the way people watched and did nothing, in the way even silence became complicit. Chloe chuckled as if she'd won something. Her friends exchanged knowing glances, clearly entertained. The moment passed, but its weight lingered, pressing down on Lena's chest like a shadow that refused to lift. What no one around her realized was that Lena wasn't weak. She wasn't broken, and she wasn't just surviving, she was preparing, quietly, patiently. And by the time the truth was revealed, the entire school, including Chloe, would learn exactly what strength looked like. And it didn't walk, it rolled in with power, purpose, and dignity. From that moment in the hallway, it only got worse. Chloe had always been cruel in subtle ways. An icy glance, a passing insult, a laugh a little too loud when someone tripped, but now that she'd found a new target who couldn't walk away, she escalated with confidence. Lena, quiet and composed as ever, became her favorite form of entertainment, and the more Lena didn't respond, the more Chloe seemed determined to break her. It started in class. In history, when Lena raised her hand to speak, Chloe would sigh dramatically and mutter, "Oh good, another slow answer." The students around her laughed under their breath, not loudly, but enough for Lena to hear it. Enough for her to feel it. During group projects, Chloe made a show of choosing her team first, loudly declaring that they needed people who could move fast and think faster. Leaving Lena sitting alone at the back of the room, her name never even considered. In the science lab, Chloe would accidentally bump into the back of Lena's chair with her rolling stool, feigning innocence with a sugar-sweet, "Oops, sorry, I didn't see you there. It's just so low to the ground." Her friends would stifle laughter, hiding behind their notebooks while glancing at Lena with eyes that said, "Don't even think about speaking up." The teacher never noticed, or chose not to. The cafeteria became a battlefield. The table closest to the wall, one of the few spots in the room with enough space for a wheelchair, had unofficially become Chloe's throne. Every day, she and her friends would sit there first, sprawling across the benches and placing their designer handbags on the tabletop like landmines. When Lena approached one afternoon, hoping to finally have a spot she didn't have to struggle for, Chloe smiled coldly and said, "Oh, didn't you hear? We're reserving this table for people who don't run on batteries." Lena paused for half a second, long enough for the words to sting, then turned without a word and wheeled herself across the room to the narrow edge of a counter near the vending machines. No one followed her, no one offered to share, and no one said anything. At first, some students had looked uncomfortable. A few had whispered, "That's too far," or exchanged uncertain glances, but they never said it out loud. They never stood beside her. Because Chloe was powerful, and in Bellridge, social suicide came easy. The moment you defended someone like Lena, you became Lena. And no one wanted that. The attacks continued. During passing periods, Chloe and her friends would slow down deliberately in front of Lena, blocking her path in tight hallways, laughing and texting while pretending not to notice she was stuck behind them. If Lena said, "Excuse me," Chloe would reply with mock surprise, "Oh, wow, didn't realize we were holding up traffic. Want us to roll out a ramp for you?" Lena never responded. Not because she was weak, but because she had learned that dignity wasn't found in shouting matches with people who wanted to drag you down. Her silence was not surrender. It was survival. Still, she felt it. Every whisper, every stolen glance, every moment her existence was treated like a punchline. In art class, it went further. Chloe walked by Lena's table and, with the lightness of someone doing something harmless, knocked over a cup of water onto her sketchbook. "Oops," she said with a smirk. "Must have slipped. You should really keep your stuff out of the way." Lena's drawing, 3 hours of careful shading, was ruined in seconds. She simply looked down at the soggy paper, her jaw clenched tight, her face unreadable. "Don't worry," Chloe added. "I'm sure you can do another one. What else do you have to do?" Lena didn't answer. She just picked up the ruined page, folded it gently, and placed it in her bag. She never cried in front of them. She never asked for help. Even when her tray was knocked over in the lunch line and no one offered to help her pick it up, even then, she collected her food from the floor in silence, stacked it back onto the tray, and wheeled herself to the furthest corner of the cafeteria like nothing had happened. But inside she was tired, not just of the bullying, but of the weight of being silent, of the effort it took to maintain grace when everything around her was cruel. She had spent years learning not to show weakness. She had spent even longer hoping that strength alone would be enough. So she focused on her work, on her mind, on the one thing Chloe couldn't touch. Because something was coming. In just a few days, Miss Rivera's class would hold its annual inspiration presentation, a tradition at Bellridge where students would give 5-minute speeches on someone who shaped who they were. Most chose celebrities or historical figures. Chloe was rumored to be preparing a flashy presentation about her fashion mogul aunt, complete with video clips and designer visuals. It would be dramatic, lavish, showy. Lena, meanwhile, worked quietly. After school, while Chloe laughed in the parking lot beside her convertible, Lena stayed in the library. She built slides no one had seen, compiled photos no one expected, and as she worked, her heart beat steadily. Not with fear, but with something deeper. A slow burning anticipation. Because Chloe didn't know anything about her, not yet, and when Lena stood in front of that classroom, she wouldn't be the girl in the wheelchair. She would be the storm they never saw coming. The day of the inspiration presentation had arrived, a day that promised to be like any other at Bellridge Academy, yet would unfold into one that no one would soon forget. The sun cast a warm glow through the tall windows of Miss Rivera's classroom, illuminating the eager faces of students ready to share stories of their personal heroes. The air buzzed with anticipation, each presentation adding a layer of depth to the tapestry of inspirations that shaped these young minds. Chloe Hart, ever the center of attention, had delivered a dazzling presentation earlier that morning. She spoke of her aunt, a renowned fashion mogul whose designs graced international runways. Her slideshow was a spectacle of glitz and glamour, leaving the class in awe of the opulence that seemed to run in her veins. Chloe basked in the admiration, her confidence soaring as she took her seat, certain that her presentation would be the highlight of the day. As the morning progressed, the roster dwindled until only one name remained, Lena James. The room settled into a hush as Miss Rivera adjusted her glasses and addressed the class. "Lena, you're up next." A subtle shift occurred as Lena maneuvered her wheelchair to the front of the classroom. The usual whispers and stifled giggles that often accompanied her movements were conspicuously absent. Instead, an air of curiosity and perhaps a tinge of skepticism filled the space. Chloe leaned back in her chair, arms crossed, a smirk playing on her lips as if anticipating a mundane oratory. Positioned before her peers, Lena took a measured breath, her hands resting lightly on the controls of her wheelchair. She scanned the room, her gaze steady, meeting the eyes of those who had often looked past her. With a calm yet resolute voice, she began. "Good morning, everyone. Today, I'd like to share the story of someone who has profoundly influenced my life, someone whose legacy is woven into the very fabric of who I am." A click of a button, and the projector hummed to life, casting an image onto the screen behind her. The photograph displayed a striking woman in a crisp U.S. Air Force uniform, her demeanor exuding strength and grace. "This is my mother, Major Vanessa James." A ripple of surprise coursed through the room. The revelation was unexpected, and even Ms. Rivera's eyebrows lifted in intrigue. Chloe's smirk faltered, her posture shifting as she leaned forward, suddenly more attentive. Lena continued, her voice imbued with a blend of pride and poignancy. "My mother was not just a parent. She was a trailblazer. As a military pilot, she dedicated her life to missions that were both perilous and humanitarian. One such mission was a combat search and rescue operation during Operation Desert Storm. Tragically, during this mission, her helicopter was shot down by enemy fire, and she was taken prisoner. Despite the hardships she endured, her resilience never wavered." The room was enveloped in silence, the weight of Lena's words settling heavily upon her classmates. The image on the screen shifted to a news clipping detailing Major James's capture and subsequent release. "Her bravery and sacrifice have been a guiding light in my life, teaching me the true meaning of courage and perseverance." Another click, and the screen displayed a younger Lena, beaming as she stood beside her mother in front of a fighter jet. "Growing up, I was immersed in an environment that celebrated strength and determination. My mother instilled in me a belief that limitations are often perceptions, not realities." She paused, allowing her gaze to sweep across the room, ensuring her message resonated. "Despite the challenges that life has presented me, I have strived to honor her legacy. At the age of 14, I was accepted into MIT's Future Makers program, an initiative designed to engage young minds in the fields of artificial intelligence and robotics. Through this program, I had the opportunity to work on projects aimed at developing assistive technologies, including advancements in wheelchair mobility." The screen now showcased images of Lena collaborating with teams at MIT, her hands deftly working on robotic components, her face alight with passion and determination. These experiences have not only deepened my understanding of technology, but have also fueled my commitment to making a difference in the lives of others facing similar challenges. The magnitude of Lena's achievements began to dawn on her peers. The girl they had marginalized, the one they had dismissed and ridiculed, was revealing a narrative that eclipsed their assumptions. Chloe's complexion paled, her earlier confidence eroding as she grappled with the unfolding reality. The realization that the person she had belittled possessed a depth and tenacity far beyond her own was a bitter pill to swallow. Lena's voice softened, yet it carried an undeniable strength. "I share this with you not to seek sympathy, but to challenge perceptions. We often judge others based on superficial observations, failing to recognize the battles they fight and the strengths they possess." She let her words linger, the truth of her statement permeating the room. "My mother once told me, true strength is not measured by physical prowess, but by the resilience of the spirit. It's a lesson I've taken to heart." With a final click, the screen displayed a quote. "Strength lies in differences, not in similarities." Lena turned to face her classmates fully, her expression serene yet resolute. "I hope that moving forward, we can all strive to see beyond the surface, to appreciate the unique stories and strengths that each of us brings to this community." A profound silence enveloped the room, the weight of Lena's narrative settling deeply into the consciousness of her peers. Miss Rivera, visibly moved, offered a nod of respect and admiration. As Lena maneuvered her wheelchair back to her seat, the room remained hushed, the usual applause forgotten in the wake of such a poignant revelation. Chloe sat motionless, her mind racing, confronted by the stark contrast between her own superficial threats. The bell rang, but no one moved. The echo of Lena's words still lingered in the classroom like a breath held too long. The usual rustling of backpacks and scraping of chairs was replaced by stillness, each student silent in their seat, absorbing the gravity of what they had just witnessed. For once, the end of class didn't feel like a relief, but a pause that begged reflection. Ms. Rivera stood quietly behind her desk, hands folded in front of her. Her voice, when it came, was soft but firm. "Before anyone leaves, I want you to take 5 minutes and write down what respect means to you. Not what you think it is, but what you've learned it truly is today." She walked slowly between the rows of desks, placing a sheet of paper on each one. "Think about what it means to really see someone, to understand them, to value their strength, even when it's not loud or obvious." No one argued. Heads bowed, pens moved, and for once the sound in the room came not from idle chatter, but from thought. Chloe sat in her seat, frozen. The paper in front of her remained blank. She stared at it, the tip of her pen hovering, her mind racing but unable to form a single honest sentence. The confidence she had worn like a crown all year now felt paper-thin. Guilt, unfamiliar and suffocating, pressed heavy on her chest. When the bell finally dismissed them, most of the students slipped out in silence. But Chloe didn't move. Not yet. She sat at her desk until only one other person remained. Lena was gathering her things slowly, with the same calm that had always surrounded her. She moved with practiced ease, adjusting the position of her bag and the laptop in her lap, eyes focused, expression unreadable. Chloe stood awkwardly, clutching her binder against her chest. She hesitated in the middle of the room, as if the walk to Lena felt longer than it should. When she finally stepped forward, her voice came out low and uncertain. "Lena, hey." Lena looked up but didn't say anything. Chloe shifted her weight uncomfortably. "I just wanted to say I'm sorry, for everything, for what I said, for what I didn't know." Lena didn't flinch. Her face remained composed but not cold. She waited a moment, letting the apology settle in the air before responding. "You didn't have to know to be kind." Chloe's lips parted, but she found no words. Lena continued, her tone even. "It's not about knowing someone's story before you treat them with respect. You treat people with dignity because it's right, not because you find out they're worth it after the fact." Chloe looked down, shame coloring her cheeks. "You're right. I didn't see you. I was always here." Lena replied gently, "You just weren't looking." The silence between them wasn't hostile. It wasn't angry. It was honest. And for Chloe, it stung more than any insult ever could. She nodded slowly, eyes glassy, then stepped back, giving Lena space. Later that afternoon, Miss Rivera collected the class reflections. Some were clumsy, a few were genuine, but nearly all of them carried the weight of awakening. Words scribbled in pencil, admitting for the first time that judgment had blurred their ability to see someone clearly. That strength didn't always wear what they expected it to. That some voices, even when quiet, could speak louder than their own. In the days that followed, Chloe changed. Not all at once, not in some dramatic transformation, but gradually, subtly. She no longer rolled her eyes when Lena passed in the hall. She no longer dominated group discussions with dismissive smirks. She started listening more than speaking. And once, when she saw another student mocking someone else, she stepped in, not with cruelty, but with calm clarity. People noticed, but no one more than Lena. She never asked for redemption. She didn't need validation. Her strength was rooted too deeply for that. But she did notice. And sometimes when their paths crossed, Lena would offer Chloe a brief nod. Nothing more, but enough to say, "I see you now too." And then came that golden afternoon, weeks later, when the final bell rang and sunlight poured in through the arched windows of the western hallway. Lena moved through the corridor with steady, confident strides of her wheels, past lockers, past classrooms, past the shadows of those who once looked down on her. The light caught her skin and reflected in her eyes. She wasn't smiling for show. She was smiling because she had won. Not a victory of revenge or triumph over an enemy, but something greater. She had remained whole, dignified, brilliant, and in doing so she had changed the space around her. Her story had been dismissed, Then it had been heard, and now it would never be forgotten.